Good morning to you. Mark Southeth, HurricaneTrack.com here, back in North Carolina after heading up to Philadelphia for the canceled trip to Nova Scotia. Yes, I wish I could have been up there, but I got to get ready for what could be happening down here in Florida in several days. But Fiona is an issue. It is battering Atlantic Canada right now, specifically Nova Scotia. I'll show you a little bit about that. And then we're going to move on to Ian and the situation that is evolving with that, and my concern about possible rapid intensification either before Cuba, just after Cuba, or worst case scenario as it approaches Florida. And I'll show you some of the basis for that concern as we move forward. All right, so it is the Saturday, September 24th. Well, the date is on there, so you know. All right, let's get on with it, shall we? First of all, National Hurricane Center chart, very active out here. You can really see the outline of the subtropical ridge, basically like this, with our systems carouseling around it, so to speak. Here's post-tropical cyclone Fiona. That's just a classification. It still has 85 mile per hour wind estimated, and there are some measurements up there. They have a great mesonet in Atlantic Canada up here in Nova Scotia, and the pressure 937 millibars. That's unbelievable for that far north. Just a remarkable system. It is causing damage up there. I've seen some different Twitter posts from various sources in that area as daylight has come. And so, yes, it has been very impactful. And then here's Gaston, almost done, basically. It's just kind of hanging out near the Azores. Here is Hermine, pretty weak overall, a very unusual location for that. And then this system down here, maybe some development over the next few days. We will watch that. But the other big and growing concern here is going to be Tropical Storm Ian in the Caribbean Sea and where it ends up over time. This is the track map from the 5 a.m. total advisory. The current update here, because there are watches up, is the intermediate advisory, but the forecast cone and the time history points here over the next few days, that's from the 5 a.m. main advisory, if that makes any sense. I hope it did. When there are watches and warnings, you get some type of an update, at least on the public advisory. I think it's every 3 hours, right? If memory serves. I'm tired. I'm trying to work through all this. So there you go. That is what it looks like on the official map there, the forecast track anyway, with a lot of uncertainty as to where this ends up and how strong it'll be when it gets there. So the broad view here on the satellite this morning, there is Fiona up here. It has transitioned over to post-tropical, kind of got wrapped up into this trough up here. A very remarkable situation meteorologically. Not so remarkable for people on the ground up there, and certainly any shipping interest. They don't call it Atlantic Canada for nothing. And this will be gradually winding down over the next couple of days. And then we will really start to focus on Ian down here in the Caribbean Sea, slowly but surely getting better organized. We can see that as it takes place over here on the sort of true color, visible looking satellite. I love this. Dr. Cowan's done such a great job. And, it's not perfectly organized just yet. Obviously, it's still getting there. It was dealing with a lot of wind shear in this area, and that has slowly let up, and it's trying to develop a more organized central core area. I mean, that'll take a couple more days too, probably. But the low-level circulation, that's what I meant to say, not really a core yet. It's tucked in there somewhere. Recon's down there checking it out. Pressure in the low 1,000 millibar range. Winds, again, about 40, 45 miles per hour. And all of that squally weather will be moving towards Jamaica. And eventually our friends over here in the Cayman Islands will have to deal with that, as the track does take it generally in this direction over the next couple of days. And it should be strengthening all the way. I mean, this whole area right over here has not had anything disturb it from any tropical systems of note in a couple of years or more. I mean, I can't remember the last time anything significant moved through there. And so the water temperatures are very warm. There's a lot of upper ocean heat content. The air is moist in the mid-levels, all that dry air, all that wave-breaking stuff. None of that matters now. All of that talk in August about a dead season and what was causing it and Saharan air, no, that has no effect on this now. All of that's in the past, and this has the opportunity. We know what these hurricanes can do over the Northwest Caribbean and in the Southeast Gulf of Mexico. And I'm going to show you a tweet here in a little while from our friend Ben Knoll down in New Zealand that is very eye-opening for sure, and almost literally, no pun intended. You'll see what I mean. All right, so the consensus right here, and I really like this graphic. The consensus is right in here. The TVC, and there's different versions of it. There's TVC-X, TVC-N, etc., and they kind of go up like this. And that's just the easiest way to just boil it all down. I've talked about this over the last few days. You can, you have the right to do whatever you want to do. Go wait for the GFS, wait for the Canadian, wait for the Euro, frame by frame, wait for the HWARF, wait for the HMON. These are all computer models. Or you can just take a deep breath, enjoy getting ready or whatever you need to do in the morning, and maybe make some preparations and just kind of check in on this map right here from the Tropical Tidbits site. It is the Global Plus Hurricane Models map under the Current Storms menu item on Tropical Tidbits. You just select Ian and you're good to go. The Global Plus Hurricane Models, and it is this one right in here. They are pretty tightly clustered, I will say, for the next several days. There's a little bit of divergence up here at about days 4 and 5, maybe 4, 5, 6. I think these only go out to 5, looking at it actually. So yes, between days 4 and 5, some divergence. We know what that means, right? Where they're not tightly clustered. But the consensus still is between Tampa and Fort Myers. From the overall models, you boil it all down, and the consensus is in that area. But, and there's always a but, the GFS and its related models are more west, and some of them even up towards the Panhandle area, whereas the European, the ECMWF, and a lot of its ensembles are more to the right. And that's why the consensus is very helpful, because using sophisticated computer models, the experts boil it all down and you get this consensus graphic that I'm showing you here. So there it is currently. Well, from 6Z, this will update it within the next hour or so, and we will see what happens. So that being said, I do want to show you the Euro from the overnight run. This is the 0Z last night, and what my concern is for the rapid intensification, and it's not where you think. All right, so let's move this through the next several days here. It starts to get, tidbits. He's got this up here for a good reason. It's going to be very busy, so I may have to just take it very slow here, one frame at a time. And there we go. So we move out. This is 48 hours right there. Still only about 1,002 millibars according to the Euro. So in 2 days, it's still organizing. So the rapid intensification, it could happen early, but I'm worried about it later on. You see what happens? It approaches Cuba, passing the Caymans to the west of Grand Cayman, and then the pressure there in the low 990s, not that strong at all. Maybe a hurricane in the model here. It's after Cuba. See, it crosses Cuba, and then obviously the upper level winds become very favorable, because look what happens. As it approaches southwest Florida, you start shaving off a lot of millibars there, and it comes in to near Fort Myers or so, strengthening. And that is my concern. Let me zoom in on this. Again, I love Dr. Cowan's interface here. If I had to design one, this would be it. So watch what happens down here. We're going to back it up just a little bit. It leaves Cuba 986, but then it starts to strengthen as it approaches southwest Florida, shaving off almost 20 millibars there, if not more. And that is very, very important to note, that the Euro is seeing something in the atmosphere plus the very warm waters off of southwest Florida to, now I don't think this meets the rapid intensification requirements necessarily in terms of the way the Hurricane Center looks at it. They have a certain set of parameters of what qualifies as rapid intensification, but it is rapidly intensifying from where it was. Just that is a true statement. And so if it does so even more, and we remember Charlie in 2004 did the same thing, and it rapidly intensified. It was small. This looks fairly small. It definitely has that Charlie vibe. Charlie had this trough that was coming through, and it interacted favorably with that trough, and it really helped to ventilate Charlie to the north. Is that what's happening here? Maybe. But this does concern me that it is not weakening on the euro. So if the other models start to converge more towards the euro solution of Tampa to Naples, just that general area for a landfall, to me that becomes much more concerning because it's in a more favorable environment. The farther north this tracks in the Gulf of Mexico towards the Big Bend area, or maybe even Apalachicola, just as a scenario, the more shear is going to be waiting up there potentially. That's still several days out. The shear could tear this apart more and it would weaken more before landfall. We still don't know, but this euro here does kind of give me some pause that maybe we're seeing a scenario similar to what we saw with Charlie in 2004 in almost the exact region. And then as you can see, it comes in and it's still fairly robust there. You know what I mean? It doesn't just weaken dramatically, and that would be a huge problem right there. The center almost directly over Orlando, very slow moving. The flood threat just ridiculous, right? So we're going to have to watch this very, very closely. I know that goes without saying, but more reasons than just the obvious ones. And this is a huge population area down here that is very vulnerable to storm surge. A lot of problems coming up potentially depending on where this goes in. And of course, if it were to take the GFS route somewhere up in here, roughly, the storm surge potential for the Big Bend area down to Cedar Key would be enormous as well. So you have a whole other set of problems, even if the wind portion of it weakens, because the GFS, you know what, let me just show you, instead of telling you, and just, trust me on this kind of thing. There you go. This is the GFS at almost the exact same time, farther west and a little bit more north, clearly, but way stronger than what the euro is showing. But watch what happens. The GFS comes north and it starts to weaken really fast as it comes into the Big Bend area. If that were to happen exactly as the GFS is advertising, let's just pretend that the model is perfect and this is exactly the scenario. You look at that and you go, oh, what is that, 992? Barely even a hurricane. Thank goodness. Well, the wind part, you would be correct in that assessment. The surge would already be in motion in areas like St. Mark's, maybe even up to the suburbs, the southern part of Tallahassee. I kid you not. That pressure going back there, it weakens rapidly after coming off of a strong Category 4 pressure. And that's not a lot of time for that surge to abate. It gets funneled all up into the Big Bend area right here. That traps that surge. Cedar Key, all the way over Horseshoe Beach, Steinhatchee to St. Mark's, and Carabel, you name it. Bad, 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 bad. If this scenario takes place, even with the rapid weakening. So you've got rapid strengthening on the euro because it's in a more favorable environment near Southwest Florida, and a rapid weakening on the GFS after darn near becoming, close to Category 5 pressure. That's usually in the 920s. And so there's really no, pick your poison, so to speak. Whichever scenario comes to fruition, it's going to be bad for somebody. And then if you just take the midpoint, the GFS is here, the euro is here, the midpoint is somewhere over here, right? And that's generally what the consensus shows, maybe a little bit farther to the south of what I just drew. So you see how all that works. So here's a great way to look at it. A tweet here from Andy Hazelton, the ECMWF, has definitely nudged west towards the GFS, and he thinks it's mostly a result of the vortex scale processes, and that's where the center is finding itself and relocating and getting established. But there are still some notable differences in the trough. That trough of low pressure right there, that's that green and blue. The EC, that's the European model, still has a deeper trough that would likely turn the system northeast across the Florida Peninsula. All right, so let's look at this real quick. This is the ECMWF at 500 millibars up in the atmosphere. There is the would-be hurricane, as I just showed you. This is from the 6Z today, and this is out to 96 hours. So this is updated. That's good. I was showing you the 0Z, so Andy's on top of it. And then the GFS at 6Z is more to the west, as you can see there, because it's subtle, but the Euro has just a little bit more of an amped up trough. That's this area right in here. This acts to cut the ridging down and allow this to gain latitude. Trough of low pressure in the upper atmosphere there, and it's really going to come down to the timing, the placement, and the intensity of Ian and where it is in relation to all of this. Furthermore, and this is important too, additional adjustments in how far southwest the system gets in the next few days could be important. That goes without saying. And in addition to that, the short wave, right there, that word, the short wave, is another little piece of energy right up here that deepens the trough on the ECMWF, is currently over the Canadian Rockies. It's way up here. This other piece of energy that comes in and helps to carve that trough out even more, that's still outside of the United States upper air sampling environment. And it's really amazing. East of the Rockies for the next few days, it's my understanding that the Weather Service is going to be launching more balloons more often to the upper atmosphere to sample that environment. Data, data, data. We need more data. And we're going to get it because that is the key to this whole thing. If that digs in a little bit more, then I almost said Fiona. Fiona's on the brain still. Ian turns more towards southwest Florida, it does look like. So give it a couple of days. That trough starts to dig in. It comes into the United States Observation Network, as he talks about, being resolved by our observation network soon. That could be a big key. So we'll be watching that closely. And then there's this. I mean, it is not hyperbole, folks. This is science. This is data. This is real. And Ben Knoll does not mince words. He doesn't care about getting clicks and likes. And, I mean, he just does his job. And people trust him. And this is why. He's got these maps that give us helpful information, even if it is not good news, okay? I'm pretty concerned, he says, about Ian strengthening into a very intense hurricane as it churns across the eastern Gulf of Mexico. That's what I was just showing you. And the reason is the ocean heat content in the eastern Gulf to the west of Florida is at or near its highest point in the last decade. These are facts. This can be measured. It can go and be looked at. The computer models help to, and just the analysis of it, help to create these anomaly maps. And there it is. And we can see it right here on this current product. The water temperatures all throughout this area here are running at about 1 degree Celsius above the long-term average. No, if you take your bath and raise the temperature 1 degree Celsius, you're not going to really notice it. But in the ocean, that increases the amount of upper ocean heat content by a tremendous amount. It is more available upper ocean heat content to be turned into fuel for an approaching hurricane, and that is one of the big concerns here. And the Euro shows Ian crossing that upper ocean heat content area right into southwest Florida over the coming days. I mean, it is what it is. That's why we have to take this so very seriously. All right, going to be mentioning this a lot in the coming days, and it's not just for what you think, where I'm trying to grow my wallet. We are supported almost entirely through crowdfunding, and it is done through Patreon. What do we do with it? You join up, you help support what we're doing. What do you get? The biggest part right now is our Discord, and I'm going to show you a sample of that in just a moment. But you also have access to our live cams. We do that through the HurricaneTrack Insider page. And look, we even have a live cam right now from one of our friends up in Nova Scotia. See, I'm there virtually. This is from a young man named Lucas that lives up there who provided a link to his Nest cam. This is located, let me show you on the interactive map real quick, just so you know. And this is one of the features that you have access to, by the way, the interactive map. Lucas Cam is up here in Nova Scotia on the western side, so it's not near where all of the badness is happening with Fiona, but it just goes to show you that's the cam from Lucas. And then we have other live cams here. This nice list of them. These are all of our permanent ones. So this is what you get. This is what is funded through Patreon. This all costs a tremendous amount of money. This is what I do for a job. This is what I do to help you. But that Discord, this is huge. And if you don't know Discord, it is fantastic. It's very similar to Slack. And this is really, really important to me. From Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia. One of our supporters up there, their screen name is Glitch, Nova Scotia there. Cell connection is pretty slow here right now. Reading up on this channel has been the best source of info for me. I mean, you know, $10 a month to help support what we're doing, that is fantastic. I got to earn a living. Can't talk. I have to earn a living, support my family, fund the project. But that really makes me feel good, that we are providing this community asset that people can rely on. We post stuff, we share stuff through Discord, and then we do what we do out in the field with the instrumentation, the cameras, like that one right there behind me, our live camera systems as well, the weather data. That is what is all funded through Patreon, and that's how you do it. If you want to get involved, get the Patreon app and search HurricaneTrack, or just go to patreon.com/HurricaneTrack and get involved, and you can see what we do. I mean, I can post videos right to Patreon, but also to Discord. I love it. It's like, where's that been all my life? It's my fault. I got on that bandwagon kind of late. Our back-end team really pushing me to get on Discord last year, and I did, and we're really embracing it. So, and also, just so you know, I talked about this yesterday, Tropical Tidbits is on Patreon, Weather Nerds is on Patreon, and there are other people in the meteorological storm-chasing, quote-unquote, field, and they can all be crowdfunded and supported that way. What a world we live in, where you can support financially, and through your encouragement too, what independent creators like myself are doing. You know, most people know that now. They know that that's where we are in this modern era of the internet, for better or worse, and in this case, I think it's for better. All right, well, let me get this online for you. I will do another update this evening, late afternoon, early evening, something like that, and we will see how things have changed by then. All right? As always, thank you for tuning in and giving me your time and attention. That means the world to me. It really does. And we'll get through this and see what happens over the coming days. Again, I am Mark Sudduth for Hurricane Track. That's us. I'll be back with you later today.